Don't be sad that the illusion shattered. Be happy that you enjoyed the illusion and now you have the mental upper hand. Let me elaborate on what that means exactly. I think in life, a lot of times when we get shocked and we get disappointed by certain situations and certain illusions crumble before our eyes, we become really cynical, or we're very prone to become extremely cynical as a result of that illusion shattering, right? Anything you can really relate that to. You could relate that to a general sense of, okay, the world is not what you thought it was when you were a kid. You lost your innocence. You realized something about your parents that you hated, that you didn't want to learn. A relationship failed and you realized that the situation you were in was not what you thought it was in hindsight. This can apply to many things. I think a relationship is a very good example of this. And I'll probably just expound on that right now because it's the most relatable thing that I think all of us probably have been through, which we can look back and think, wow, that was a situation that was maybe very good, just sort of enshrouded in these illusions that were entertaining our fantasies, right? Like, when you're in a good relationship or a relationship that you enjoy, maybe you're in love with somebody, you're basically blinding yourself to certain realities. You are unconsciously operating under blind spots so that you can only see the best things, and you're fantasizing about a person and projecting your fantasies onto that person most likely. And I say that if that relationship went on to fail, especially because if that relationship went on to fail, then that means that you had probably been, operating under these illusions and these fantasies and projections that you had prior to meeting that person. And that's a really hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, particularly when that relationship ends. Say the relationship ended and you're disappointed that that person was not who you thought they were. And you're trying to come to grips with the fact that that relationship and that situation was almost false. And in a lot of ways, you can argue that yes, it was false, especially now that you're in the present moment and you have the future hindsight ability to look back and be like, that was not how I thought it was at the moment. You know, I see now that was actually different. This is why they were acting like this. All these different things, right? I'll draw from my experience. I've had these beautiful, amazing situations with women in which I was in this little bubble of just like pure, I guess, appreciation, and just like the situations I was in, it almost felt like this is too good to be true. And my point in this video is just to say, like, why not appreciate that? Why not appreciate the fact that you got to live in a situation that was like pure love, undoubting, pure faith, pure trust, even though in the future when things do fail, which a lot of times they're bound to fail, even though in the future they fail, and then you start to realize that, like, oh damn, like that was wrong. I was wrong, and I was fooled almost. You could even think like that. And all these things are valid. All these points are valid because, again, if the thing does fail, if a situation does fail, it wasn't what you thought it was initially. But, I mean, in my experience, I've lived through these situations where for an extended period of time, I got to live in this illusion, And that illusion was extremely enjoyable, like, for me in my life. Like, I can look back and think, like, I've been in situations where I was purely in love, and I was with a girl who, even if it was fake love from her, it felt like real love at the time. So I don't really see the point in arguing that, oh, that was all fake, that was for nothing. Their love for me was due to their personality disorders, and it was false, and etc. Doesn't really matter because it felt real. It felt real, and I got to experience the experience of true love and passion and all the things that come with that are good. And actually the benefit of that also in when it fails and when you realize, because it is painful when it fails, because you have to realize then that, okay, there are all these things that were happening under the surface that I had no control over, that I was blind to, and that actually probably caused the failure of it. So in one regard, it's not ideal to be operating under these delusions, but the fact of the matter is that, especially if you're a man and you're growing on a steady path in your life and you're becoming more and more conscious, you just have to graduate from those different phases of life. And so, they have the whole blue pill, red pill stuff. I don't want to talk about that because that whole community is just crumbling. But the fact is, when you grow up, you start to learn more things about yourself and about the world. And you realize certain truths, and certain truths are quite harsh to stomach and realize. And I'm just here to say that there is a light on the other end of the tunnel of the truth. There's a way to get to that point of truth, even though it's very uncomfortable and very disconcerting and disillusioning and disappointing to realize, especially in the fresh aftermath of something that had just failed. But again, my point is, once you get past certain stages and you move past a certain amount of time during whatever your healing phase, you can really start to get a fresh look on the situation and just start to appreciate it for what it was. Like me now in my past relationship, I'm pretty much getting to a point where I just appreciate the situation I got to experience, which was one of it was almost like a movie and a life experience that I feel like not many people really get to experience in their life ever. And if I were a person who just from the jump was straight red pilled and straight brutal, non-trusting, and I didn't have this sort of emotional side to me at all, I would never have been able to experience that. And if I was operating purely on a practical mindset, okay, I'm going to look at all the red flags, I would never have really gotten to experience that gift, from the universe, essentially. I would have never gotten to experience that failure, which led me to illumination and enlightenment of certain areas of myself and my life. I would never have gotten to experience any of that. I mean, the caveat here is clearly that you don't want to just be going headfirst in all these situations like a fool. You don't want to be foolish. You don't want to be operating under the dangerous mental conditioning that people tell us, you can just 100% trust everybody. But I guess my point is that you don't really have the choice, because no one is on this earth. No one's God. No one has all the answers. No one knows everything about everybody that they interact with. Nobody is going to be able to make bets that are 100% true and 100% accurate every time. So you might as well enjoy the experience of being wrong, but in being wrong, you get to enjoy the benefits of your delusions and the illusions that you're under. And so, yeah, I guess that's just a little point I want to make. You don't have to look at the past and think about how blind you were and how much you failed, because that doesn't really do you any good in the moment. And really, if you're doing that, it's probably because you're holding on to certain aspects of your old identity. And that's another beautiful part of growing and allowing time to elapse, because you start to separate who you were from who you are now, because time and change and mental work has evolved you into a new person to where you can just look at the past objectively and just appreciate it a lot more. So again, to summarize this video, I just want to say, don't be sad that the illusion shattered. Be happy that you enjoyed the illusion, and now you have the mental upper hand. And let me elaborate on the mental upper hand part. When you get hurt and when you get your illusion shattered and you get shocked like this, well, firstly, you have the choice to learn from that. But you also have the choice to, paint the lesson exactly how you want to. You don't have to get corrupt. You don't have to get cynical. You don't have to get bitter. You don't have to get angry about something that didn't work out the way you wanted it to work out. If you do feel like that in the aftermath of anything failing, whatever, a job, a relationship, a friendship, a situation of any kind that you realize was a failure and you were under an illusion, you don't have to you should process that pain and that shock as soon as you can. because the sooner you can do that, the faster you'll be able to then look at it and be like, damn, like I was living a real life like movie slash novel slash like pure and idealized human experience, like shit that we watch in movies. I mean, why wouldn't you want to experience that in life? Why would you want to live a life the whole time under this like brutally pragmatic way of being? Like if you're a 19-year-old kid, if you're a 16-year-old kid having your first love, imagine being like, oh yeah, all women are fucking like promiscuous. Like if you have that notion your whole life, you're gonna become a weird person. You're gonna become like a bitter, sort of robotic, strategic, solution oriented, and just like I guess cutthroat and just strange red pill character. And I don't think anybody would advocate for like a 12-year-old to not have a first love, right? Now we probably would advocate for a man who's a little bit older and a first love that was like enshrouded in this ignorance, this beautiful ignorance that is only really like achievable when you're younger and ignorant. But and again, I would say as you get older, you have kind of less of an excuse to do that and be foolish. But you're also running the risk of becoming this weird, bitter, red pill, pragmatic like freak, frankly. And frankly, I even think that once you get into those situations where you get kind of traumatized and you get hurt, you get disappointed and your illusions shatter, why not still keep an air of just like love and like optimism? Because I don't know, I don't think that the solution is to like hide in your bedroom and just like never trust anybody ever again. I think that you can learn to operate on a sense of trust, and frankly, or like further, you can learn to really just stop putting the source of your validation outside yourself. Once you really learn to like have yourself as this sense of this core of self-validation and self-understanding and self-appreciation, then you are a lot less vulnerable in a dangerous way, because you don't want to be vulnerable in a dangerous way, but you also want to be able to maintain this air of like hope and optimism and love and like appreciation for people, as opposed to getting bitter and cynical because certain illusions shattered and you had to come to certain levels of understanding and enlightenment about people, about the world, about yourself, about love, about romance, etc. So it's really about finding that balance, of like pragmatism socially and interpersonally, and faith, I guess. Like faith is again the key here, where we hold on to that, and it keeps us almost childlike and innocent and light in the way that we walk around and operate in the world. But you still have the mental upper hand because you've been there before, and you know the dangers, you know the consequences of being fully blind. So you're not fully blind anymore, but you're not fully cynical. And I think that's key. So that's all for now. Peace.